Hello everyone and welcome to episode 55 of the Hall of Gamers podcast. This week I'm joined as always by our wonderful producer Cameron.
Hey.
And our special guest from XboxEra, John.
Hey everyone, both Kiwis and Aussies around the world, and it's nice to be seeing a stream live at a reasonable time of day and be on it, which is great. So thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, happy to have you. We'll do a bit of a chat in a little bit here, but as always, we're live on Twitch. If you happen to be catching the VOD or the audio version, Hall of Gamers Pod is the place to find us on Twitch. We do this live every week, usually on Fridays, sometimes on Saturdays. So it's for our international guests. But yeah, come say hi, talk in the chat, shit post, do whatever you want. I mean, as long as you're not posting too many links. Love to get some questions. We've got some cool people in the chat at the moment. Dinoball's in there, Bulbasaur. Who else we got?
K Foxy.
K Foxy, yeah. So if you happen to miss this episode, I'm actually come out and check the next one. But as always, without further ado, the thing you've all been waiting for, Song of the Week. Take it away, Cameron.
I'm losing my mind, I'm on a 1052. Playing roguelike games that I don't normally do. It looked like fun, so I just try a run or two. No. It breaks me down and I'm a slave to RNG. I need to get it done so I'll finally be free. And now I guess it's time for a 1053. No. Why did I start this? No. It's leaving Game Pass. Brutally killed and I'm back to the start. Brutally killed and I'm back to the start. Monsters came to fuck me up.
Tell them how you really feel about going under without telling them how you really feel about going under.
Fuck that game. All right, and I will.
It's a great game.
It's an okay game, but still,
Okay.
Fuck that game. We'll get to it. I've been having a roguelite week, so we will get into it. But before we kill our audience with salt, let's get a bit of a chat with our wonderful guest here, John.
Hey.
I guess for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Happy to do so quite often. For those that have never encountered me or heard of me, which is perfectly understandable, no grudges held. I co-founded and help run, and I'm the co-host for XboxEra. We're a Xbox and /PC, wherever they are, their games are, dedicated publication. So I'd like to think we started off as just a little vehicle for the podcast, but grand ambitions took hold, and before you know it, we've got a fully fledged and very modern forum with over 1 million views a month, which is nuts. Like, we never saw that coming. We've got a really, really cool day one Game Pass app. If you haven't checked it out, I thoroughly recommend you do. You can visit day1.xboxera.com and you can rate Game Pass games, decide what you're going to play, look at reviews, interact with the community on the forums to talk about games if you want to play one with someone. It's very, very cool and very slick. Hilariously, it was integrated with How Long to Beat, and then obviously Microsoft announced earlier this week, hey, we're going to integrate with How Long to Beat, and I'm like, you sons of... But I've been gaming. I've been a big Xbox fan since I was 16 years old. The same old story that probably many Xbox fans have. I was walking through, I found an Xbox pod. We did the silent cartographer mission, and then it was like, oh god! And we went back and we traded in all the N64, and I think we had a PS1 or something like that floating around. Chucked it all in, walked out of the shop with a brand new Xbox and 2 pads, and me and my brother were in literally hog heaven for the rest of time, and the rest is history. And it's a weird journey. Like, 16 years old, fell in love with Halo. 2021 was in the credits for a Halo game. Never thought that was going to happen, but it's crazy if your passions are there and you love something, boom, things can happen, crazy stuff. So yeah, it's been a journey, but that's the nutshell, I think.
Wow, jeez, I'm trying to think about where to even go from there. There's so many.
There's a lot. It's been crazy.
So I guess how did the XboxEra sort of get its start? I guess it seems to grown pretty organically, and you sort of mentioned it was sort of to support the podcast, but then kind of grew arms and legs and became its own sort of thing.
Yeah, it was it was really silly. Like I've always wanted to work in or around games, and I love to write. And I love to create content, right? It's always been big passions of mine. But as often in life, and certainly in the UK, I didn't live around any dev scenes. And frankly, I hated school and further education. So I didn't really plan on doing much in that regard, and fell into life, as many of us do, and ends up doing something for a living that, if you put a gun to my head and said, how passionate are you about this? My answer would be, but yeah, so I wanted to do a podcast because I became increasingly irritated at the wider games media. I won't name any names or any publications. Just they did not know about the brand. They didn't know about what the dev teams were up to. And, you were sitting on enthusiast forums and you were like, how do I know more than these guys? Where has this take come from? Out of space? Like, how do you not know this? This is your job. You get the pleasure of doing this for a living. And it wound me up. So I put some feelers out back on ResetEra.com, very popular video game forum, just saying, hey, I would love to do a podcast. Is there anyone interested? And someone pinged Nick, or Special Nick, as he is known, because he's very special, apparently, in his Discord, because they had like a little Discord for that group of forum users that didn't really want to post on ResetEra. And they were like, hey, this weird dude is asking for people if they want to do a podcast. So we ended up connecting, and we just apparently have some sort of good rapport. So we kind of clicked, and we were like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And, it was just going to be a podcast. We didn't have any ambitions, or at least he didn't. And I kind of twisted his legs. I was like, we should probably have a website for it, and we can collect stuff. And then it grew and grew. And we started building an amazing team. I think there's a couple of big turning points. One was Jesse, who's our reviews editor. He is a machine of content production. And what's really cool about Jesse, and I have to shout this out, he didn't know how to edit video when he joined. He was like, I really want to do this. And he learned. And he is now just this game playing, writing monster. And he keeps everything going. And also Pre-Drag, our art guy, he elevated XboxEra into something that none of us could have dreamed of. I firmly believe if I look at our video content and what we do across reviews and previews and stuff like that, I think we stand toe to toe with some of the best in the industry. And a lot of it is down to Pre-Drag's presentation of us, which is great. But there's so many on the team, like Harmy and Suki Brood and Proven and One Bad Mother. And man, I could go on and on and on. The whole team are just absolutely brilliant. And I'm really lucky to have them. It's a completely community funded thing. So as it grew and grew, we were like, okay, this is getting serious. And there is going to be a tipping point at some point in life where it's like, this is 2 jobs, because it kind of is. But this community believed in what we were doing and wanted the podcast that was run by people that were paying attention to the platform, much like why you guys exist, right? You know the platform, the community. That's why these things are popular. It's because if you go on and listen to someone, you think, what you're talking about. It's like, well, why would I listen to you then? So it was really just an incredible journey, and it's humbling really to be in the position we're in, because we're 3 and a bit years old now, and yeah, like we are on Metacritic, we're on OpenCritic, we have relationships with pretty much every major publisher going. It's nuts. I never thought this would happen, and now we're really pushing to grow even bigger. And I would love to do this as a job. So let's see what happens. That's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, that's an incredible story, right? And it's one of those things where right place, right time, and yet you had a message that really resonated with people, and it just kind of took off, right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
And I 100% understand what you mean about the hot takes from people who have no idea what they're talking about, right? Yeah. It's so many times. I mean, again, I got into big gaming podcasts early on, back in the early YouTube days, and it was like, you'd watch stuff and you'd be like, or listen to stuff and you'd be like, you responding to things. You're like, well, okay, clearly, like obviously you haven't thought about this, or you don't know about this. And I was like talking about it so much, and then I'd bring that discussion to say Cameron or other people like that, and it was like we're already having this conversation. We might as well just record it, right? We might as well just get into it and have a big chat.
Every news article in the Xbox One generation.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, it was.
I mean, look, I understand it's the thing that's not getting you clicks at the moment, but come on.
That's the thing, and that's the thing that really, that's what I love, having a community behind you, because and you know, there's an argument about remaining objective, and I understand that, you know, people see XboxEra and go, oh, bias. Yeah, you know, I don't agree. Like, if we think it's a bad game, we're going to call it out. But the way that the modern media and these big companies that have to run the sites, I mean, look at all the layoffs that happened over the last week or two of Fanbyte and other publications. It's because they need to make money to pay all these people to make the content, right? And maybe these people, you know, are great writers but don't really know how to or want to do video, or, you know, all of these different things. And what I love about it is that we are not beholden to advertising. That's not a goal. The goal for XboxEra is not to make loads of cash. Like, it's useful, and the community helps us so that we can have things like a forum and a website and a day one app and all the other things we want to go and do. But it is not the prerequisite. It's not the driving goal, is to make a shareholder some money and to pay everybody and all of that jazz. You know, I realize the realities of business that at some point it's going to be that. But when you look at how headlines are written and formed, instead of delivering the news, I'm going to deliberately skew it so that I'm going to deliver the news that connotates a negative emotion, because that's how the internet works. And then I'm going to get money from that click because you're annoyed at the hot. And like, how are we all okay with that as a race? Of like, we were saying this on the show the other week, like the algorithms fuel negativity and hatred and discourse. Why can't someone build one that's, you know, mathematically about positivity and kindness and empathy? You know, someone's got to be able to do the math somehow, somewhere out there, but I don't know. Pipe dream.
I mean, I mean, it's funny because my day job is working in digital marketing, and so it's you know, I'm from a consumer, totally get it, and I'm always like, this is those like ad block, you know, fight the power, everything, and then it's like, and then I go to my day job, and I'm a massive hypocrite, but like it is one of those things where you're just like, man, how does this like, how is this okay? You sort of mentioned about your sort of gaming history with the Xbox, and you kind of got started with the original Xbox. I'm assuming with the original Halo.
2001 was a good year.
Yeah, right.
Vintage.
So we'll go maybe a little further back. Like, what got you into gaming in the first place, even outside of Xbox?
Oh man. Well, if I go all the way back, so I used to live in Sunnyvale, San Francisco when I was a wee nipper, and my father worked for IBM. He was like, I can't remember what programming language or visual language it was, but he was like one of 3 experts in the entire world. So he was very sought after as a solutions architect for IBM. And as a result of that, even when we moved back to the UK, because I think BT bribed him to come back home and work for British Telecom instead. It's the same job for more money. And he was like, yeah, all right. We always grew up around computers. So, you know, I inherited my 486 from my dad when he got the Pentium 2 and all that sort of thing. So weirdly, and I'm a console kid, honestly, at heart. Like, I can use a PC and I use it for everything else, but I've never jived with, you know, it's particularly like FPS games on mouse and keyboard. But my earliest days were stuff like Doom. I think the first ever machine I had was a BBC Micro, which I don't even know if you guys would remember that one. But it was old school, the big 5.5-inch floppy disks, and playing stuff like Repton. And then it was an Amiga 600 Plus was my next like big love. And then after that, I had a PS1 for a little while. I obviously had my PC in the background, so I used to do a lot of LAN parties of Red Alert and Command and Conquer and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was really the thing that sealed the deal for me and made me a console kid was probably the N64. Like, that was Ocarina of Time. You know, that was a game that was just like blew me away when I was a kid. And then after that, yeah, it was the Xbox's time to shine, and I've kind of mained that platform ever since. I mean, I play a lot of things elsewhere, VR and a lot of PC titles, but I just like the ease of vegging out in front of a giant screen on a sofa with a pad in hand and chilling out and experiencing different video games. It's fun.
100%. Yeah. No, that's great. I find that it's really great to have like a bit more of a storied history of where kind of games have come from, right? And kind of understanding, you know, what the history is and where things have got to, why things are the way they are.
Yeah, It's a fascinating industry, and if you look at what's happening now, I mean, it's not without its drama, but it is like suddenly a switch has been flicked, and some of these big tech companies, and Microsoft is obviously one of them, have gone, people really love this. It makes more money than movies sometimes. Maybe we should get involved. And now we're seeing this massive shift. And there are people out there that are really going to struggle with that change. And not all change is good. And I get, as human beings, we fear it in certain ways. But it's definitely going to be the most interesting generation we've seen in a very, very long time. And I'm fascinated to see where it goes. What kind of new avenues of games are going to be delivered in. And, you know, we had every gen, we've had the game, you know, like we had Battle Royales with the game last gen. And before that, it was like Call of Duty was the game. And now it's like, I still feel like the next one's coming. Like, what's the new game that everyone then tries to copy years later? And it's just it's an interesting world to live in. And I think that's primarily the thing I love about games more than anything else is life can be so humdrum and boring and repetitive and monotonous at times. And I've always viewed video games as a medium of escape to do other things. And I particularly love games that use the medium in a way that is not, we're just going to tell a movie via a game. Like I kind of like really dislike super story driven games. Like I'm not against them, but I love games where they say, hey, we know this is an interactive medium, so we're going to surprise you because we know what this is doing. Like great examples of like Brothers, Tale of Two Sons is, you know, as a nutshell, a fantastic moment. And it's one of those things you're like that's only possible in a game. You can't do that in a book or in a film. Like that's why I love this stuff. It's always someone out there is going to be thinking of the next incredible thing that just does that. So yeah, it's a great industry and a great sort of journey to be on as a gamer.
Totally agree.
We're getting deep here on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I was just like Brothers.
Straight in. Early morning deepness. These guys are like coffees and like, oh God.
Oh man, I'm wired. I love talking about this stuff. I mean, hell, like there's like that moment, and obviously I won't spoil it because Brothers is a very like it's a great experience and people should go and try. But that moment at the end where like that's the thing where it's like it's like exactly like you said, it's the thing that you could only do in video games. And you know, some people come to the discovery really quickly. Some people take a little bit longer to get there. But when you have that moment, it's like it's incredible. Like
it lives with you. It lives with you.
Yeah. And it's like a tiny bit of the game, and it's like it's always going to stick with me. I guess. So you mentioned mentioned a couple of games in there. In terms of like series or genres or anything, is there anything you sort of gravitate towards? I love small, certainly as I've got older, you know, 2 kids, all of that jazz. Time is limited, especially with XboxEra. You know, I'm one of those frustrated. I love to play games whenever I can. And I have some big major obsessions that often get in the way, but I love the smaller, unique indie style games. And I'm not saying that to be a hipster. All right. I'll play AAA with the rest of everybody, you know, but I love things like Inside. I loved this year Tunic, Death's Door, these kind of like out of nowhere. Hey, we're gonna take the concepts that, you know, maybe familiar, and we love the genre. We're gonna just refine it down into the quintessence of what it can be, and then suddenly it's captured your imagination. You just can't put it down. It's those kind of unique little journeys and building those little worlds. Like Inside's a great example. Zero HUD, zero context of what's going on. But through visual storytelling, through animation, they just suck you in, and you're like, what is this world I'm in? And then you start to theorize your own storylines to it. And it's that kind of unique power of games that we're going to make you a part of the journey that I adore above all others. So I'm fine with playing, you know, like an Assassin's Creed or, you know, a story-driven third-person action adventure game. Like I'm fine with them, but the gameplay has to be really, really good, and the story has to be like top tier before I just kind of like ugh. And the problem with modern AAA games now, and Valhalla is a great example, is I got that with a review kit for the Series S when it launched. I got the
the copy of Valhalla, and I was like, okay. And I got into it. I hadn't played an Assassin's Creed in ages, since Black Flag was the last one I completed, mostly because I loved all the pirate stuff. Like, I was like, on land assassination missions. Come on, let's quickly do this and back out onto sea and sea shanties. I loved it. And I was really disappointed they kind of like Skull and Bones is taking most of that, but they've done away with actually having the kind of on foot pirate stuff. Like, you want a bit of both worlds, but that's another conversation. But when I jumped into Valhalla, I was like, okay, I haven't played one of these for a while. It was gorgeous, and I was only playing on a Series S, but it was, you had the SSD. It was all new at the time. I was like, this feels great. And I got into it. And after 90 hours, I think I was something like 13% into, and I'm like, okay, you're not respecting my time. Like, and I get it, they want to sell transaction packs and hero things and whatevs. But at the end of the day, I don't love it that much. The gameplay is not that great. So what started off as, it's in my country, and it's the olden days, and okay, I'm bored now. I just fell off it. I think the moment was I logged back in at Christmas, and the game was like, hey, it's Christmas. Here's a Christmas event. And it's just a repetition of a dress up of an event you've done previously. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm never playing you again. Gone. It's just one of those things. So I'd veer away from games like that. And I really want to stick to the stuff that, tries something new or does something so well that you can't help but admire it. I think those are the best way I can put it. And there's loads of stuff out there like that people often overlook, which is a shame.
Definitely an argument.
Sorry, go.
I was going to say, there's definitely an argument out there too, like, of some games needing to respect your time. And yeah, just Valhalla's like the crown of like, we're gonna take it, stretch it to everything.
Well, because when you were talking about like your description of AAA games, I was like, my mind went straight to Ubisoft, right? I was like, okay, like releasing the same kind of game over and over again with just massive amounts of padding and I get it, right? Some people get like 1-2 games a year. They want that to be their thing that they play,
get their money's worth.
Right, but in a post-Game Pass world, that's not how most people play games anymore, right? I mean, obviously, there's still going to be an audience for that, but I mean, especially like us as achievement hunters, we much prefer shorter, more interesting experiences in terms of like points to time ratio, which is not the correct way of doing things, but it is something that we factor into our decision making when we choose what to play. But I'll play 10 indie games over one Ubisoft kind of big AAA padded out experience, right? Because I love that stuff too. Like, again, I'm a huge like story gamer. That's why I play games, and I'm always interested to see how storytelling can work in video games and what kind of stories they can tell through interactivity. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But like, I would much rather play like an interesting, if a little bit janky 10-hour game than an 800 mission repetitive grind.
That's the other thing too. Like, why play a 100-hour game when you can play 10-hour games from, I don't want to say smaller teams are more passionate about their games, because people working at Ubisoft are still going to be very passionate about games like Valhalla, but you've got like more extent of like different experience. You've got more you got more of a chance to hit, you got more of a chance to miss. But at the same time, like,
I completely agree.
Love indies.
It's an interesting conundrum for developers, I think, because making a AAA game is an incredibly risky proposition from a will I make my money back, which is why so many pitches fail and why you'll often have people on forums going, bomber, when a game bombs and doesn't land. And I think this is where, you brought up Game Pass. It's an interesting platform because it has changed the way I think about gaming. Now I see a game that might be in a genre that is not my typical forte, or I might see a title that I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't have anything to lose by clicking download or firing it up through cloud out of pure curiosity. And I have found some absolute cracking games just via that delivery method, where if we were living in the old world and I'm looking at the row of boxes in the shop, and I remember those days, the 360 gen in particular, I was old enough to be able to buy my own stuff, but I had to think about this. And, I still occasionally rented stuff from Blockbuster. And that was that version of Game Pass. Like, okay, this one, and this one. And there was occasionally gems. Does anyone remember Jason and the Argonauts, the game? Like, This is a proper B-level game.
Yep.
Loved it.
It's cool.
Like, it wasn't the best game in the world, but you could tell the developers were like, okay, this is how BioWare does some of the conversation trees, and this is how we could do the combat. Great. Top work for that developer. And I haven't actually checked, so I'd probably go and give it a Google and see what they made next. But those kind of games stopped existing because there wasn't enough money to be made, and now they're kind of coming back, I feel. They're these kind of B-level... quick double A, I think is what they're
double A,
to.
yeah.
But yeah, like I love that they exist now. And when we talk about games that don't respect your time, like I look at Forza Horizon 4 and 5, I fell off the bandwagon big because the game genre stopped being a racing game or a communal game for me. I still think they're fantastic games, but it became a map game, which is a genre that has started to just convalesce over the last few years. And it's like, oh, there's a million things to do. I'm overwhelmed and I no longer want to play. And that happens a lot. Whereas, there are games that push you in the direction they want you to go and they're one and done and 10 hours and we're over and you're like, that was great. What's next? Yeah. So it's a huge challenge for developers out there. And I think Game Pass is going to, over time now, especially, I think it already is changing how we all play games. And it's going to be super interesting. Again, this gen, just watching this play out in real time, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where I did the same thing, and I used to work at EB Games, so I would just, I would borrow a lot of stuff for testing out to make sure that I knew what I was talking about with the customers, which I'm pretty sure, thinking back on it, I was a teenager and my boss was running some sort of, racket out of the back room, but whatever, that's fine. But
you got your video games. That's the most you care about, man.
Questions. I was like, hey, like,
all you need.
It's like, I was basically broke, and he basically paid me in copies of BioShock, but whatever. Yeah, but I totally agree. I think that it's one of those things where, like I said, for achievement hunters, we have that extra thing of being like, well, we want to try and play as many things as possible to try and rack up our score or whatever the goal is for your achievement hunting needs. But the Game Pass stuff is just like, it's so interesting, and I don't buy games anymore for the most part. Like, I don't remember the last time I went and bought a full.
I was literally about to ask, when was the last time you bought a game where you were like, oh, watching the marketing cycle, I'm going to pre-order this game?
Yeah, it's like, day one. I mean, to be fair, I'm a fucking cynical asshole these days, so I don't fall for any of that anymore, right? I mean, I literally work on the other side of it, so I'm like, no, come on. But like, it's also like, yeah, exactly. It was like, I got to a stage a couple of years ago where I hit my backlog thing where I was like, I looked at my list and I was like, I have 200 games sitting here that I have bought and I have not even started, right? Or if I have started, right? And I'm like, I need to put the kibosh on this, because every time a sale comes out, I'm just throwing money away at stuff that I'll never get around to. And I was like, this is going to be tough. I'm going to have to work on my backlog and like not play a lot of new stuff. And it was like that. And then like Game Pass was like, yeah, no, you're still not going to get to that backlog, but you'll save some money at least, right? And so it's like, now everything's just Game Pass all the way through, because I'm just like, there's so many new interesting experiences joining and also leaving that I'm just like, I have to get onto it. And I'm always so excited by it.
Yeah. I mean, look at what's come out in the last week. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm just looking at recently added. We got Amazing Cultivation Simulator, Ashes of Singularity, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Beacon Pines, Commando 3, Danganronpa V3. I can't even pronounce it. Whatever that one is. Deathloop, DC League of Super Pets, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Exapunks. I mean, I could literally talk on for another 12 titles, all in the last 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
And I sat on my Xbox tonight. I was like, oh, okay, I haven't tried Metal Hellsinger yet, so I'll bink. Spider Heck, spiders with lightsabers. Okay, dink. Like, it's nuts, but I love it, because I probably will bounce off of Spider Heck, and I probably might be like, oh, Metal Hellsinger, I'll play it for a couple of levels, and I'm fine with just dipping my toe in. But it's the joy of dipping your toe in and then being like, oh, okay, this is incredible, and then you're off on the journey and you can't put it down for ages. That's the bit that I really love. It's nice being able to browse.
Yeah, can you imagine someone not knowing about Tunic and just jumping in there and just being like,
oh, that game, from a design point of view alone, incredible.
Yeah.
And what I love is I actually think that the game, even if you don't like the challenge, because I know it's got a bit of a Soulsy element to it, put on God mode.
Yeah.
It's still an absolutely fun time. I played through it, and then I played through it with my son and turned God mode on for him, and I was like letting him try and enjoy discovering some of the mysteries. He loved it. And yeah, okay, he couldn't die. So what? He doesn't know that. He sees his character get hurt, but he still had to sit there and think about some of the puzzles, and that's a game in and of itself. And I love that the developer did that and recognized that there were plenty of people out there that just want to play. Psychonauts 2 is another one where they turned on all the accessibility, and people whinge about accessibility. I know that's a big hot topic of debate. Oh, does Dark Souls need an easy mode? And from my perspective, as a video games journalist, wannabe journalist, there is no harm. If the game can be played how you want to play it, go nuts, be challenged. But if the game can be experienced for its art or for its story or for its journey, let people play it and be invincible. Who cares? If it's not affecting anybody else, what's the harm? Oh, it's the integrity of the artist's original vision. Oh, come on, man. It is just video games. It's not worth the drama and the toxicity over such a silly debate.
Can I just say with that God mode comment too, like me and my daughter, we got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection a few weeks back. Putting God mode on that, on second player for her, she's only 3, yeah? But being able to pass her a control and be like, go left to right, hit some things, don't worry about dying, amazing.
Yeah,
such a great bonding experience.
And I, speaking of kids, and I look at Game Pass, like when Peppa Pig dropped, I know there were lots of jokes and memes that the game of the year is finally here. But to see my 5-year-old little girl who has always watched attentively from the sidelines, her brother playing and me playing and not quite understanding the pad, she could grasp fully left, right, A interacts with stuff. And that became, and she was something like, I'm playing an episode of Peppa Pig and I'm doing these things. And she started to learn. Like, and I think back to when I tried to get Jacob into games, and I went through like a mental process of, okay, first of all, I've got to teach you how to navigate a 2D space. Then I've got to teach you how to manipulate a camera in a 3D space. And then I'll get you into, and he's finally there. Like, you should see him in Minecraft now. He'll call me, oh, Dad, I made this. And I'm looking at this mansion with these redstone thingies and lifts. And I'm like, you made this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're 8. You're smarter than me. What's going on? Like, yes, but I love it. And I people whinge about kids playing games and getting lost in front of screens, but what they don't realize is games, especially community-driven games or games like Minecraft in particular, they teach you so many different skills that I think kids that don't play games miss out on. It's puzzle solving, problem solving, reading, hand-to-eye coordination. There's so many perks. And the fact that Game Pass is actually leaning in on this, and we recognize that a lot of people that buy the premium consoles and buy the subscriptions, they're probably parents. Let's give them something to share their hobby. And I love that. I think it's great.
I gotta say, every month, it's got to be like at least 3 or 4 months running now, anything published by Outright Games. Because the other problem with these games too is the IPs associated with them. Massively expensive, like Paw Patrol Grand Prix. My daughter loves Paw Patrol. She'll just run through all the characters with me and just be like, oh, it's Chase. Like, you really got to get into it. And I've got one on disc, which was fine. But then everything that's just been hitting DC Super Pets, we played through that last weekend. I think Ugly Dolls hasn't hit Game Pass yet, but we got a disc down the street. And it is honestly the best introduction to gaming for a child that age, because it's like, it's got some enemies, but like realistically it's a few hits and then they just respawn.
They're moustache twirling villains.
Yeah. Collectibles, like, and just like basic reading and like basic, like, go to this point, do this like collectathon kind of stuff. But it's perfect for a kid that age.
Yeah. My boy in particular, and I've actually had to pinky promise earlier today, funnily enough, before he went off with his mum. He said, Dad, next weekend, can I, me, you, maybe Uncle Tom, and we're going to play Sea of Thieves, and we're going to go kill a Kraken, and we're going to go do X, Y, Z, because he's loved watching Daddy be a pirate. And Sea of Thieves, for me, is game of the generation. I think it's probably the most unique game. And I was complaining earlier about a game that doesn't respect your time. Sea of Thieves is at top of the freaking list of not respecting my time. And I've kind of fallen off of it or out of love with it a bit because I have ground it into a very fine dust of playing it so much. But at the time, playing through Shores of Gold, the story-driven stuff, it was the best gaming experience overall with friends I've ever had in my entire life. And I've played a lot of games, but it was this perfect combination of good camaraderie and the particular journey we had because we were in the shared world. We were pursued by this rival galleon who was always one step behind. Like, we had our own Goonies villain chasing us throughout the adventure, and we kept having to see them off and having these epic encounters. And it was completely off the cuff. You couldn't replicate that again. If I wanted to play through it again, that experience wouldn't happen in the same way. And it was incredible. And I've never had so much fun and laugh out loud figuring out puzzles and doing it with friends. And it was hours and hours and hours of my time. And this was before they patched it and let you have save points and gave you everything for free. But in the good old days when I used to play Sea of Thieves, it was hard, Now it's all like, here's everything. You can buy it at the outpost because, everybody needs to play. But I can't beat that. And I will forever, for all of my criticisms of how the game does things now and what I would like to see versus what they do, I cannot fault. That game did something new, and it is still to this day absolutely gorgeous. And it's like it was the first game into Game Pass, right? 2017.
Yeah, right.
That's day one game into Game Pass, I should say, first party. But yeah, love Sea of Thieves, great game. We've gone off on some tangents here.
Yeah, I love it. That's what
who
the
knows
show's
where we
all
are
about. I mean, exactly. But trying to steer us maybe a little bit back to, we should probably get into some of our community questions.
I love community questions.
We'll do Hack and Pone's one first here. So thanks for writing in, Hack and Pone. He says, I'm stuck into Game Pass. Again, this sort of relates to some of the stuff we've been talking about. I've been stuck into Game Pass games for a bit now, especially having the good ones leaving after the last few rounds. So I need a way to pull the plug on these and instead work on some of my backlog. So thinking of it, if it's something worth paying money for and it's not on Game Pass, then should I prioritize playing it for free? If it's a game that I wouldn't spend money on outside of Game Pass, then in my mind, I could pass on it and not really lose money in the process, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. So the question is, what games on Game Pass / PC console are so good that they'd be worth paying for full price, even if they weren't on the service? What games are good enough that they'd be worth paying for on sale? And then what's on the opposite? What's stuff that you've played on Game Pass that you never would have paid for? Again, we don't have to go through the entire 2017 to now list potentially, but anything in particular that sort of comes to mind around things you're like, man, this is like a really, really good experience that normally I would have shelled out for, or some of those surprises that you talked about there, John.
Yeah. That's a big community question. So I'm trying to think. So games that I would absolutely like, you should slap money down on this, even if it wasn't in Game Pass. Of top of my head, I would have instantly slapped money down on Tunic. For what it was. But really recently, I think You Suck at Parking. You Suck at Parking. If you haven't played it yet, You Suck at Parking is an incredibly great game made by an incredibly passionate team that had a unique, cool idea and thought, let's make a racing-ish game about cars that isn't about going fast, but stopping exactly when you need to, and turned it into this absolutely brutal puzzle game that has never, I played a lot of games, and it's, it's one of those clench your pad and go, when you don't do it. And I would pay money for that instantly. It's really good. It's evil. You want to talk challenge, that's a challenge. I feel old and slow playing it, but I still love it. It's really well done. What about you guys? What would top your Insta buy? Doesn't matter if it's on Game Pass or not lists.
I was going to say, for me, it's hard because a lot of mine are going to be going up past experiences. Merely, the first two things that came to mind were Forza Horizon series, because I've essentially, nearly completed the series. There's a trend. I know what I'm getting into. It's going to be racing. It's going to be, the open world map. That's fine with me. Age of Empires 4. Age of Empires 2 was the first game I ever played on PC. Love me, good RTS.
Good choice. Good choice.
And I mean, like, I feel like Age of Empires 4 is probably the closest to 2 in the series. It still sits in a weird spot for me because nothing can match that nostalgia for 2, but still an amazing game. And this is going to sound like a really weird one, but I can't say the full name. Taiko, the drum game.
Drum Master. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know one of our guys played that and like weirdly loved it.
It's so engaging.
Random tangent, but have you seen the trombone game that's definitely been
Yes,
going viral?
yes.
Oh no, I haven't. Okay, I have to check that out. That's
It's 11 quid on Steam. And look, I don't buy games very often, but even just for the lols, it looks ridiculous and stupid, and I loved it. But yeah, sorry, random tangent.
With the trombone game though, I'm so glad. This is the one positive social media. Yeah, you think of a game that doesn't have any association with something like Game Pass in terms of marketing and that, just going viral. Like for example, a few weeks back, Squirrel with a Gun, like just something amazingly simple that just blows up in virality.
Yeah, I've seen the clips of that, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this whenever it lands. And this is what I mean about imagine working for Ubisoft, guys. Board meeting. Hey, shareholders. I know we've been struggling coming up with new IPs. You know, Ghost Recon flopped, but don't worry, I got you back. Picture this, okay? Squirrel, okay? Everyone likes squirrels; they're cute, you know. With a gun. I don't see that pitch going through at Ubisoft somehow. I don't see it landing and being developed. And if it did, it would be like an RPG where he has to grind for certain levels of guns, and maybe his father was brutally killed by rival squirrels. And so, but you know, this is just developing like, look how ridiculous this is. Can I make it playable and hilarious? Yes, I can. Great, let's go. It's the beauty of video games.
Yeah,
have a crazy
absolutely.
idea.
I mean, yeah. So if you got something and you want to make it, now you can, right? It reminds me of what was it? Gunstringer. I don't know if you remember that game. Twisted Pixel.
Yes. Yeah.
Explosion Man and a few other games as well.
Yeah.
I loved Explosion Man.
Yeah, me too. That donut song every now and then just pops into my head.
Everyone loves donuts.
Exactly. One of my favorite stories, and again, another complete tangent, is they went into a meeting when they were like, okay, pitch us your next game, and they didn't have any idea, they didn't know, right? But they saw that there was like a sort of marionette style picture behind the person they were talking to, and they just completely bullshitted it and just were like, okay, so it's about a cowboy, but he's like a marionette, and like you control him using the Kinect, because they were thinking about like Kinect technology, and they're like, oh, you know, you use your hands. It's like, yeah, so it's like you control the cowboy, but like it's with the Kinect, so he's like on strings. And like, that's a great idea. So where do you get your ideas from? It's like, oh, you know, sometimes they just come to me, you know, we've just been talking about this for a long time. We've gone through a lot. Yeah, exactly, right? And it's like just because they have to be sitting in the right spot and just completely bullshitted their way through a meeting, we just got this weird, interesting game that, you know, probably never would have got greenlit.
Wow. I love it.
In terms of stuff that like I would have, you know, I mean, like I think that Tunic is an amazing shout that like, I've been excited for Tunic for ages because I know it was sort of in development for a long time.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it, there's so much stuff in here that I've played that I was like, man, I really enjoyed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That was, again, EA is kind of an iffy one. I'm kind of looking through the list at the moment.
As Dust Falls?
I haven't played it yet.
You haven't played it? Have you played it, John?
I have played it. I reviewed it for XboxEra, funnily enough. So it's an interesting one, and I was curious because, and indeed, I kind of said in my review, I don't particularly like games that want to be movies. But to its credit, it did hook me in, and I was like, okay, where is this going? And I thought, you know, the art style, I think that's a very Marmite choice they made.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the social element for it, for me, like just being able to, like 12 minutes, for example, I sat with my partner and we worked through things and like treated the game
12
like
minutes
that.
as well.
As Dust Falls, like to me, it is Telltale plus a social party.
Yeah. That's the clever twist that they put on it, I think, that deserves to be given credit.
And that's like because in the lead up to the game, I was trying to figure out like, okay, do achievements pop for like both people who's playing multiplayer? And I couldn't find like any definite answer. And I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna go in, try it out. I'm expected to do like one chapter that night and be like, all right, cool. Like, do the slow burn. No, just hooked immediately.
Yeah, it did do a really good job, and they definitely ended. I don't know what your playthrough ended like, but it ended on a cliffhanger for me. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be some DLC coming down the pipe. But we'll see. I don't want to spoil it. I don't know. That could be different for everyone, but 12 minutes is another one that I loved point and click games. I grew up on that stuff, like Simon the Sorcerer, Monkey Island, all of those things, and criticism about the particular story and plot twist aside, which. I did an interesting developer interview with the guy who wrote and directed that game and made that game. And he was actually really good during the playthrough. I don't know if you ever got any points where you were stuck, but I was doing the review and I came to a point where I was like, I've got all the pieces and I know how to do this. Yeah. I can't get the game to understand my logic to trigger the event, but I am like 100% sure. And the developer replied back to me, was like, you've got the right idea. Think about it this way. And then I was like, okay. And then I went and did it. And then obviously the plot twist happened. And I actually, and that's a weird conversation you think as a wannabe games journalist. I was like, hey, it was a spoiler interview. So I was like, game's out. Let's talk about that bit. Like, what were you I almost wanted to be like, what were you thinking here?
Yeah.
Because you're going to turn off a big chunk of the audience just because of the subject matter. And he was like, it was just a unique twist that I thought was horrifying and scary, and you couldn't really do it in film. So what better place to kind of do it than in a game? And it's the kind of thing you might see in like an indie theater, because it had these big. And I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. I still love what it did. I thought it was fantastic, and I love time puzzles and stuff like that. So, and that's what I love about games. All of those unique ideas. Some of them might not land, but when they do, or when they surprise, or when they delight, it's bliss. I mean, it's gaming.
I left 12 minutes going like, I really want more point and clicks like this. I don't care for the story, but I want to feel the games that give you that sense of discovery. Like, I figured this out. Like, I love them. There's no better feeling.
Yeah, and I was very lucky in that regard because I had a much more positive experience than a lot of people did because my brain hooked in with it in a way that I hit most things in the first or second try where I was like, I won't spoil it too much, but there's the bit where it's you need to convince your partner that you're in a time loop, and I was like, well, first thing I would do would probably be the lightning and thunder thing. And I was like, that if I was that person, that's what I would do. And it worked. And I was like, this is the greatest game I've ever seen. It fucking knew. And I was like, of course, not everyone has that same experience, right? But I was like, it worked for me because I was like, beat. And then it just got right to the end. And I was like, this is great. It worked exactly the way I thought it would. But experience with our co-host Charlotte was yeah, okay. So I had the photo and I kept showing it to him, but I didn't click on the photo before I picked it up. The game didn't give me the extra bit of information that I already knew. And I was like, okay,
you have to kind of be logical, but also bear in mind the game logic. And look, hey, that was a first attempt, and I thought it was admirable at mostly ticking those human. How would I deal with this if this was the situation I was in? I'd be like, okay, the car horn's going to go off, the thunders, and it used that. And those initial moments, you were like, oh, this is so cool. And when you found out you could hide in the closet and you thought you were going to get away with it, and then sometimes you did if you went straight in and the wife didn't catch you at home, didn't realize you were home. So many clever little what ifs that the developer had to sit and think through from a design perspective. Storyline aside, incredible achievement, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and actually, I guess before we move on, I think my one would probably maybe be Forgotten City. Speaking of time travel, that's one of those ones I was just like, again, that's pure narrative, all storytelling, all about conversations and discovery and messing with time and kind of trying to figure out stuff. And I love that kind of stuff.
Can we just also point in fact to the amount of appreciation I have for having one NPC tied to so much backtracking?
Yeah, they were like
so clever.
Said one person be like, okay, I'm going to tell you all the things that I've already done in the previous timeline so I don't have to redo them. And the guy's just like, cool, man, I'll take care of that for you. and then you just go off and finish the rest of the stuff.
Can I just say too, Deathloop I've been playing through. I'm so glad that we don't have to do the explanation bit associated with like looping. But
yeah, they've done well there. I mean, I've only dabbled in Deathloop. It frustrates me, and I want to have a conversation with the Arcane guys, and it actually gives me a tiny bit of worry for Redfall, just a smidge, because I really am looking forward to Redfall, but just a tiny bit of worry. Do you remember playing Perfect Dark Zero from Rare?
Unfortunately, yeah, I played it earlier this year.
Right, so think back to how aiming was in that game. I get that. Yeah, it feels like you're like somehow the curve has gone and you're kind of in a square somehow. It's really hard to describe.
Yeah.
Arcane games feel a little bit like that to me. Like if I compare it to something like what I would consider a very, very refined first-person shooter in the mechanics, like we'll leave Halo Infinite alone in every other regard, but in the mechanics themselves, it frustrates me because I would instinctively go to do something with all the muscle memory that FPS games have given me, and I'll be like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right, or do I need to adjust the curve here and mess about with my Elite pad to kind of get it to where it kind of feels okay? And that is like a big, big no-no for me as a gaming fan. If like you make an FPS, or if you make a driving game, or if you make it, we'll pick a genre. If you don't nail the core mechanic of your game, like if that doesn't feel great, I feel that you might have messed up somewhere.
But that's foundational, right? And everything you build on top of that, you start sinking into the sand. Yeah, exactly, right?
But I realize I feel sorry for the community question here because we are down the road.
Yeah, it's fine.
We're in Tangent Town right now. I have to be like.
Yeah, anyone who asks a question on this show knows exactly what they're getting into. So I think it's fine.
I was going to add to the Deathloop too. Did you have any issues with accessibility?
No, not off the top of my head. Like I could, I haven't got any hiccups usually. Why? What do you think?
One-shot kills for me. I don't know if like my settings are turned on. So in the Achievement Hunter community, there's been a few guides like your what is it? Like the respawn system, when you die twice, like you permanently die, and then it restarts the loop. Yeah. You can set that to infinite. You can set kills to one shot.
Yeah. You can keep reprising and stuff like that.
That automatically turns off for me in game.
Oh.
But it doesn't. Like it isn't consistent, and I think like with the boss levels, it doesn't work. Like when you're taking out the visionaries, but then everything else does. And I'm just like I'm using it as the achievement hunter. Like, okay, I'm making the gameplay easier. I'm here for the story, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think back to somebody who might be using those accessibilities options for accessibility, and going like, okay, is their experience changed now because, the one-shot kills and everything is working, but they're hitting roadblocks because of this.
Maybe flag it like the devs are surprisingly astute and responsive. I think Dinger on Twitter is pretty active. If you just make like a hey, I don't know who to reach out to, or tweet Bethesda's support, and indeed maybe if you do like a little video of it, we can obviously reach internally and ping the publisher and say, hey, like we don't know if this is a bug, but we've heard this in the community.
Like whether it's intended or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, one-shot kills, but hey, if we give that to you for everything in the whole game, like maybe it was, at some point a creative choice. I don't know, but maybe see if you can find some consistency to it and then report it, see what they say.
Yeah,
it's worth a shout. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe people on PlayStation have experienced the same thing. Who knows? Curious.
They've had a year to test it, so.
Yeah. That doesn't mean anything.
Xbox only feature.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Come on.
I know the game just came out. Oh God! Right, next question here from Isaac, our question asker extraordinaire. He said, "Hey guys, are there any games that you think would take forever to finish, but you actually got done quite quickly? But perhaps you were like Kirby and got really lucky with something that just worked out with you, or you found some sort of exploit that took about 20 hours off your game or something. What game? What happened? Anything like that?" While you guys think about it, the first one that comes to mind for me is Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And this was 100% intentional on my part. So that is a long game, and if you want to get all the achievements, it requires 3 playthroughs. You got to do okay. So normally it's you go through on normal and do all the quests, then you go through on hard, and then you go through and do a speedrun road. What I did is I started the game on hard, went to the DLC island, and basically cheesed my way through the bosses to basically, on the other end of it, came out at level 200, and then went and started the actual game itself. And then just breeze through the rest. Well, not even breeze. To be fair, some of the stuff is still quite difficult, even at like a ridiculously high level. But that took maybe like 30 hours. That took basically a whole playthrough off my go through. And yes, that probably took a good 30 hours off of it. So my estimate is way down. But I can't think of anything else where I'm that lucky. I'm usually very, very unlucky when it comes to video games, as I'll talk about when it comes to what I've been playing this week. But yeah, I don't know. You guys have any sort of good examples of, tremendously good RNG or anything like that?
Not RNG, but like Halo with the breaking certain parts of the game comes to mind with me. Just around the geometry.
By design, right? Almost at this point where they're just like, you're absolutely going to grenade jump over this and skip half the level.
I mean,
that was a great little skip.
Yeah. Grenade.
Much needed.
I mean, after those 7 years of playing Halo MCC to get that completion, I got grenade jumps down to its to a perfect art, but there's that one level in 4, and the name escapes me, but you'll start off in the ship and doing that massive level skip, just traveling forward for a minute. You go on the side of the building, and then you you leave and glitch in, and then immediately you're at checkpoint Charlie.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah.
So for something that's activate bridges for 2/3 of the mission, being able to do that, skip through, and Halo 4's got a few of them, which once you look at the speed runs is just crazy, but it's not RNG based. It's just knowing.
It's an interesting one, right? Because you look at some of the crazy speedrun stuff, and I'm waiting for the co-op patch before we attempt Lazo with Halo Infinite. But I think back to trying to do Lazo on MCC many years ago, and I just there comes a point where I don't care anymore about the achievement. That might be blasphemy, but I'm just
no. I get it.
My fundamental thing, I want to have fun, and I get the sense of satisfaction of having 100% on games, but I couldn't do it. The one that I played recently that really surprised and delighted me, and this is a great example of not getting your controls right, was Escape Academy. Right. Escape Academy came out. I had a couple of mates, we were playing online, and I thought it was 3-player, stupidly. I was like, let's everyone download it. And I didn't read the blurb. It just said online multiplayer. And I presumed, 3 of us, it'll be fine. And then we found out it was 2-player. But I had a quick go, and it was obviously using a peer-to-peer, some form of network connection where you've got a room code. And it felt laggy, and the aiming felt weird. And it immediately put me off. I was like, ugh, and I put it to one side. Fast forward a month. So a month later, I haven't paid any money for the game, but it was still sitting on my hard drive. And I was chatting to another friend, and we're like, I heard it got patched. Maybe we'd just go in and give it another go. Man, we were stuck in that game for the whole night. We couldn't stop. And it's a challenge, right? So no guides. We're going to use our brains. And the sense of satisfaction and what has actually become a really great game. I saw they've announced DLC coming for it soon for another 5 levels. If you haven't played it with a friend or a partner or whatever, 100% recommend it. It is a really good time. And don't cheat and look up guides, you achievement hunters, just trying to get through the end shortcut because it will only take an hour tops. Try and figure it out. It's brilliant. It's a great piece of design. And that's a game that nearly lost me because it didn't get its core concept right. If you're going to advertise online multiplayer, figuring it out, and you're going to put me in a first-person viewpoint, you better nail the control system or I'm going to bounce. And they were lucky that they got a patch out and that we were bored and I'm so glad that I gave it another go because it went from to, I would 100% recommend that as a co-op experience. It is great.
Totally agree. I love that game. It's funny that 3-player experience actually seems like a relatively familiar story, Cameron?
I'm glad I'm not alone. I thought, I meant to know what I'm doing.
I mean, there are 3 people in the podcast. We all enjoy playing games together, don't we, Cameron?
I feel like Steam has more has more options for more players. I
pretty
may
sure
be
it's only
wrong.
two. I'm pretty sure it's only 2 because
Okay.
they reference it in the story. But yeah, I love that game, and I didn't use the guide for it. Charlotte and I played through it when it came out and had an amazing time. It's really funny that it's an escape room game when escape rooms were built on the idea of puzzles in video games to begin with. It's so cyclical.
Brilliant.
And yeah, like as soon as we saw they were like, oh, we're gonna do like 2 big DLC packs, and I saw they just announced the new ones coming. I was like, great, I'm gonna jump on that day one. I want to play more of it. I had such a good time. It was again another one of those games where it's like cool experience. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Lots of variety in the puzzles and a really good co-op experience. Like it's perfect. I loved it.
I mean, like the best thing up until the point of Escape Academy we had was like We Were Here Together games.
Yeah, the We Were Here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love those games too.
Yeah, great stuff.
And then Cameron, you put in a question here. We'll just quickly touch on what's the best controller you've ever used. I am. It's a hard one. It's I know it's not the N64. I'll tell you that right now. Like because I don't have 3 hands.
Have you ever gone back to it?
I have.
Yeah.
Since you used to, because your 9-year-old self was like, I've got this, using the C buttons for movement whilst manipulating a thumbstick whilst holding a trigger, like somehow, and it worked. And then you go pick it up as an adult, and you're like, how the
how do I approach this?
Yeah, it's like I used to play GoldenEye on this, right? Like, how is that? Yeah, I'm a really big. I really like the. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the 360 controller, but I think that the Xbox One controller is pretty good. I like it quite a bit. Because I grew up with PlayStation originally and sort of moved over to the Xbox with the 360 generation, so I've been on both sides of the battlefield. And as much as I like the DualShock, I think that the sort of stick setup for the Xbox I think works really, really well.
It's the right answer, my friend.
I think that's kind of I was like, look, I'm relatively agnostic when it comes to it. If someone hands me a PlayStation controller, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I use the GameCube controller, and I use the Wii. I've used the Wii, and I've used the N64, so I understand how Nintendo doesn't understand ergonomics. But, I think the original Xbox One controller is great. I mean, and to be fair, the series controllers are basically almost exactly the same. So it's,
gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a rant. The answer to this is the Elite Series. Controller, the Elite Series 2 specifically, but also it's the worst controller because they break all the can I swear?
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah,
all the fucking time. Microsoft, you cannot sell people 150 quid's worth of premium controller and it's all metal on the outside, but then you use the crappy plastic bits on the inside, and then because it's metal on the outside, it's extra strain, and then they break, and then you're like, oh, I have to buy another one because it's the best controller I ever made. It's irritating. And do you know what's even worse is this mug, after sending his Elite Series 2 Halo Infinite controller away for repair, still bought the white one for no reason other than because I couldn't play on the original pad anymore. Like, I have been ruined, and I resented paying for it. I resented it. And I'm an Xbox guy, but Microsoft need to. I am stunned it hasn't been recalled. Every single person I know in the entire industry that I have ever interacted with has had a problem with that controller, bar one. And that person's usually like, well, maybe you're not looking after your controllers. I'm like,
what do you think I'm doing? Just running around the car?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Okay,
it's funny though. Like,
it irritates me.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Like, you think back to the 360 with the Red Ring of Death and all that kind of stuff, and the mentality around that, and then just the Elite.
Well,
and you just
the original Xbox One, right? They were like, we're going to bring out the biggest VCR you've ever seen because we are not dealing with that fucking overheating issue ever again. But they haven't quite got the message on the controllers because you're right. Every person I've talked to is like, this is the greatest controller I've ever used for about 5 minutes until I broke it.
Yeah,
I got to say though, with John, yours looks really nice having the Halo bits on the white.
Yeah, like I didn't mind it. I actually want to go for a more lime green. I'm a big lime green fan. I was Googling spare parts, and I'm hoping people do gold and purple and blue and red, but there's no like really good lime green. So I'm waiting for someone to make some official parts that I can buy and slot onto that to go with the white a little bit better. Olive green, it's not quite the green I'm looking for, but I'll get my Elite Series 2. The big worry for me is that the repair center have got my Elite Series 2, the Halo one.
Yeah.
And I actually put a note in the repair package, like on top of the pad before I wrapped it all in bubble wrap. I was like, do not fucking send me a Black Elite Series 2 refurb unit, motherfuckers. I want my Halo game, my Halo pad back. Because I Googled how much they are, because they don't make them anymore. You can get, like, if you want to buy one, it's like 650 quid. I'm like, no, you better give me my pad back. If you've got one unboxed, you can go make some cashola, my friend.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's where the money is. That's where the money is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's the second best pad ever made. I love the art style. Honestly.
Well, because I had to return my Design Lab controller because the Xbox button broke on it, and they sent me this wonderful custom piece. So I got that to look forward to. As a replacement. They're supposed to be refunding me, and I just realized in this conversation they still haven't given me my damn money back. But whatever. Not that process has taken several months. All right. Well, I
was going to quickly add into that. I'm not... Okay, I'm probably like the one person that doesn't care for the Elite Series controllers. I have them. I bought them. They were okay at one point in time.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you own every controller.
Yeah, that's true. I've got like 8, so it's fine. Design Labs. The Design Labs with the grip is just...
I like my Design Lab quite a bit. The
Series controllers just feel so much lighter to me than the Elite. And that difference in weight, like with the grip on the back, is perfect for me. Yeah,
I like the heft to the Elite. I like it. So I totally get why like that might not jive with you. There is a certain correctness about the weight of a pad with just a couple of batteries or a battery pack in it versus all the metal hanging off of the Elite Series 2. But yeah, like I can get by on an original pad, but as soon as I went to play Halo on the standard pad, like I have sprint on one of the paddles and I have the ping on another paddle, because that way, and I play bumper jumper, so basically my thumbs are never off of the sticks, because that means you can always aim, you can always move. And I just couldn't. I was like, oh, this is horrible. Thanks, Microsoft. I'll just go dump another 100-something quid on your epoxy always break Elite controllers. I think the thing that bugs me about it is, for a company that is so, and I think they're unique in the industry comparatively to Nintendo's or your PlayStations, in that all of the Xbox team and leadership are very much present in the community. They converse with us, they talk with us. I mean, look, we had Phil on our 100th episode for our podcast, right? These are people that, again, mega corporations don't care about you. But my interactions with everybody at Xbox at 343, they love what they do and they love the community. And even though the community, in my opinion, can occasionally be jokes, especially you, Halo community, they love it. And you don't see that. Like, I don't see Jim Ryan jumping on a podcast or anything, because I don't see Jim Ryan playing games. He just cares about the money. And then I find the weird, like, people claim the weird cult following of Phil. Like, it's weird. I'm like, maybe it's because he almost seems like a human being. Like maybe he's just a likable guy. But you still see that weird cult following over like the original Sony guy. What was it? Kaz Karai? And you still see it a little bit like over Sean Layden and things like that. Sean's probably the most normal of those guys, and Jack Trenton was all right as well. But it strikes me as odd for a community that is so out there that they haven't had the guts to admit, okay, these pads we've messed up, like they did with the 360, like they did with other warranty issues. It bugs me. It irritates me. We deserve better for the people that are buying these things.
It does really seem like an oversight that is just sort of unexpected based on their sort of customer focus that Xbox is. Well, I'm not going to say are doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They've had to for a competitive advantage, which is fair enough.
Do you know what's amusing? Like we're an hour and 20 minutes in, and I'm looking at. I just looked at the show notes. And I'm like, these were a fun idea.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes you just have a guest on that. I'm not going to say derails everything,
Yeah, I totally
He's taking
did.
a new course, and that's fine.
I'm a chatty Cathy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm more than happy to chat. To be honest, I think it's much more interesting stuff. But speaking of which, we probably should move into maybe the one news story that we'll talk about, which is the one that we have to, is the GTA 6 leaks. I mean, like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention them. Holy shit! What the fuck happened?
What a tale! What a dramatic story.
So for those who somehow didn't fucking see this because it wasn't, like front page news everywhere, like GTA 6, like a huge amount of it got leaked, like 90 different videos. Some fucking super hacker man basically went in and just was like, hey, how do you feel about the GTA 6 stuff? This development's taking way too long. They're not doing enough announcement trailers. Blam! And just put that stuff all over the internet. And then people were complaining that games was like, man, this game looks like shit. It's just like, come on, guys.
Okay, there's so many takes from this too, though. There's the fact that apparently he didn't even know how big, like, a leak it would be. Like, most anticipated
How can you
game,
not realize?
Like, biggest piece of media ever was GTA 5. How can you not anticipate that this is going to go, like, absolute gangbusters, leak, like, blow up massively? So many shitty takes of just like, oh my god, GTA 5 looked better. Like, not understanding.
Tell me you don't understand game development without telling me you don't understand video game development. Like, I've been in a lot of early testing, alphas, betas, all sorts of things over the years. And the viral tweet that went out where one random guy who then had to obviously protect his tweets because the gaming community ripped him apart with the graphics are the first thing they finished. Like, dude, optimization is the last thing. It's all about all the underlying stuff first. And it, and then seeing it was heartwarming seeing all the developers like, look at this fantastic game you played. Look what it used to look like. But yeah, I have no idea what this 17-year-old kid from the UK was thinking. That
was the thing too. Like, he's 17. Like, how does he know how? Like, has he just been like in a cave playing Watchdog Legions? Like, I don't understand.
Well, here's a question for you. And hey, let's get deep on this topic, right? Ignoring the state of the leak, and I don't think it's going to have any big impact on the game. The game's going to look great when it comes out. GTA 5 looks great. They are masters at the craft. But here's a question for you guys that might, I'm curious on your opinion, and there is no right answer here. I have seen a lot of posts calling for him to be, enjoy prison. Ha 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 ha. I'm like, this kid's 17. Yeah, you can make an example of him. But I can assure you, if I had the skills, I would have been like, look what I can do. I would not have thought ahead. I am not an adult. I don't have that kind of vitriolic reaction of like wanting to wish this guy harm. He's a kid. He made a stupid, possibly going to ruin his life for a very long time, or net him a job at some big CIA type security firm. Yeah. But like, seeing people calling like for baying for blood was weird to me. Very, very strange reaction. Like, I totally get the ruination and how disheartening it would be for the development team, and they have my sympathies. But once it all came out that it was a kid, seeing that people baying for blood for this kid, I was just like, whoa, the crime is the crime. I get it, but he's a stupid kid. He doesn't know.
There's two main mindsets I have about this. The first is the fact that, okay, yeah, sure, he's done something bad, yeah. But he's 17. People like this back in the early 2000s with like tech companies and all that, that's where they ended up. They got jobs for it. They worked in that level of security. I'm like, the first thing I think is like, okay, you've got Take-Two, Rockstar, and you've got a 17-year-old kid. How is security?
Take-Two are vicious, man. Take-Two are vicious as well.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, sure, people in the community be calling for blood and all that. He's already going to have to deal with them, so that's massive enough. But at the same time, like, a company of that magnitude, how do they not have better security protocols to keep like something like this happening? And then the second thing is too, the nature of the gaming leak. Did we really Did we really think like and sit here and go like, all right, GTA 6 is going to be anything different than 5, than 4, than like everything before it? It's GTA. If GTA leaks, we know it's just going to be GTA. It's not a story. Like, it confirms the story elements and that kind of stuff. That sucks, being like on the development side. But if I was a developer in this situation and like my hit sequel leaked of the previous game, it's not as big.
Your hit sequel that you've already announced that you're doing, and is also the previous one made you so much money that you would be stupid not to make another one. It's like, I think that, my real thought is that, like, what you were talking about before, John, it's fucking video games at the end of the day. Sure, it's a huge piece of media, it's a big money maker, and obviously Take-Two and everyone, like, are not happy about it. And it's like, obviously, it's fucked, right? It's not a good situation. But at the end of the day, it's fucking video games. This isn't like a HIPAA violation. This isn't like going to people's medical records or dropping their social security numbers or credit card stuff or, banking information. It's some fucking pixels on a screen of the thickest Latino I've ever seen shooting people in the face. All right, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be okay. Yeah. If anything, they might even benefit from it.
Yeah. What's the phrase? There's no such thing as bad press or whatever. All press is good press. I can't remember what the general
all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, it's all along those lines. And look, GTA 6 is going to be fine. I know there was concerns about source code and what it would allow modders and hackers to do, but there are already people that will brute force that stuff anyway. So, I think it's been an interesting week, and the games industry is always interesting. In there's always some sort of crazy drama. We've had all the sparring between CEOs about the acquisition, which has been hilarious. Like Satya Nadella yesterday with let's compete, baby. Big shit-eating grin. Like, okay, you're a fucking $1 trillion company, bro. It's the way that the games media then takes it and frames it. You get the Twitter wars and the fanboy nonsense, and then you get, the established games media. They'll put it in a certain way from their slant, and then you get the back and forth circular arguments from the different camps, and it just goes on and on and on. And I look at all this stuff, and I'm just like, it's just video games, man. Do you know, I didn't even watch any of the leaks footage. Like, I got given all the links to it, and I was just like, GTA plays like shit. I don't care. Like, GTA is a prime example. Beautiful, incredible open worlds, like amazing technical design, life in a digital video game, people going around doing their own things, all these NPCs. Red Dead Redemption 2, similar. Plays like shit. Like, from controlling the character, I'm moving through mud. The shooting feels terrible. The last game that Rockstar got right in terms of gunplay was Max Payne 3, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, like, I don't care. I've stopped buying GTAs now, and I've learned my lesson. And the reason I kind of quite liked Crackdown when it came out back in the day. Crackdown 3, let's not talk about it.
Nick's not gonna like that. No, I'm kidding.
No, Nick's not gonna Crackdown 3 stand. I mean, it's a great platformer, but I wouldn't say it's a particularly great crackdown from what I loved about the original. Sure. But what I loved about doing a GTA, like most of us when we were kids, was like, okay, let's go kill a bunch of people and see how long I can evade the cops for. And what I liked about Crackdown was it turned it on its head and made me like a crazy superhero that could pick up cars. And I was like, cool, this is just Carnage the game. Great, I'll just have fun. And that's the bit I liked. But every GTA, GTA 4, the slog, GTA 5, I got right up to the final mission, and the controls were just so frustrating. I was just like, I can't be bothered. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about anything in this world. It is just, So yeah, GTA 6, don't give a shit. I'm sorry to say.
I think that's totally fair. I bought GTA 5 on the 360 back in 2013 or 14 or whatever it was. And like, I didn't buy any of the next gen versions of it. I was like, cool, I had my experience with it. I enjoyed the story for what it was. It was, again, a little bit too full of bullshit, and I'm not a huge fan of the online. So, and obviously that's the direction they're going in, right? That makes them millions and millions of dollars every year. It's like GTA Online is the future of that series.
It's too much game.
Like a little bit.
It's too much game. I love that.
It's the Valhalla problem for me. And I'll I'll see like the TikToks and that, like people, having fun with the role playing servers and all that kind of thing. Which I think like it's great that it can be a platform for that. But at the end of the day, like give me my indie experiences. Give me a few different games that I can play each week, and the varying different styles of games, rather than one thing that's going to encapsulate my life for the next 12 months.
Yeah. We got a few other news stories, but I think we'll probably just skip over them because I don't think there's anything in there that's super. If you want to touch on any of them, Cameron, or just basically read the headlines for any of the ones that you think we should say.
Yeah, so the September Xbox update revamped the games library. They added RGB to the Elite 2 pads and more.
Yep, that was cool.
Yeah,
my Elite 2 pad green. Cool.
Like, it's cool. I'm just like, would I use it? Probably not, but like it is a cool feature. Other than that, they confirmed that blades are not coming back, so please stop asking.
That's pretty good.
Anyone that's still standing for blades, I'm like, come on, man. It's 2005. Get over yourself.
I was going to say, most of those people are retired by now, right? I think is...
Yeah.
Look, we'll just put them in the same camp as the bring snapback stands,
Yeah, exactly.
Some just more updates around Halo Infinite Forge. I'm not sure if there's anything you want to talk about there, John.
It depends. It depends if we want to go on another half-hour tangent. Halo Infinite Forge is very cool. I was distinctly surprised and kind of chuffed that when they showed it off, they used my map to do so. I don't know, did you guys catch that? Did you see the footage? No, I'm shocked. But so, nutshell, for those that are listening, watching, that don't know, so I actually got contacted by 343 back in 2019 saying, hey, we want to talk about Halo with you, but please sign this scary NDA before we do. And I was like, okay. Big eye emojis on the reply. And the nutshell was they flew me out there in 2020, just before the pandemic crazy stuff happened. I think I left the studio the day that the call came out. That's it. Shut it down. Everyone remote and crazy stuff. Because obviously it all kicked off in the States.
That was like last week, right? It was like a month ago, I think.
Yeah. But Washington State, I think, was the first COVID death in the US, and that's where I was. So I was flying out of Seattle when all that was going down. But they flew me out there to help work on the next Forge and gather a feedback as a subject matter expert. I suppose I've been a big addict to Forge. That is the time sink that I would just lose hours to. I love creating stuff, and Halo's my jam. So I love building experiences for people to play on. And it was a really cool moment. Got to be in the credits for Halo when it came out in 2021. And then they did the first show off of Forge Fundamentals. So their first official reveal of the tool, and was enormously surprised that they then showed a map that I've built to show off how cool Forge can look. And the response was incredible. I became like a minor Halo celebrity for 24 hours. It was very nice. It was really, really wicked. But I believe that tool is going to really change Halo for the better. And I think that people are going to be... I've seen crazy things. Like, people have no idea how cool some of the stuff that's coming is going to be. So people that are worried about Halo, November 8th is going to be the game changer, I think.
Do you think Forge will fix the content drought?
The community will definitely step up. 100%. The question becomes how quickly 343 can react to community desires and get those maps into matchmaking. And there's, from a level design point of view, I think there's a key difference. I've seen lots of really impressive beauty spots made with the leaked build of Forge. But they're not necessarily great for actually playing a game on. So you get all the hype and all the, look at how hyper detailed this is. Yeah, is it actually good to play on though? And that's the crux. So hopefully there's going to be a good team behind that are helping cherry pick and highlight the really good stuff, like remakes and things like that are bound to come through. But I hope that it will at least mitigate the content drought. There's this weird gap between, I want developer-made maps that look the best that they can look. But if you haven't seen the footage, like, my objective when I made the map that was shown off was I want people to be watching this, and when they see it for the first time, go, this is Forge, and like be almost incredulous with disbelief. And judging from the reaction that I saw in the live chats during the stream, mission accomplished. Like, it is genuinely very powerful, and I think you're going to get some very, very deep, rich, detailed maps out of it from people that want to spend the time to build those. So hopefully they find their way in and help mitigate that drought.
Fantastic.
Nice.
What else you got there, Cameron?
Sorry, I started looking at the video and yeah, it looks nice.
You're curious.
Yeah, I was
16 minutes in.
I was just very curious. There's some really nice stuff here.
I'll definitely check it out after this.
Yeah, I kept on meaning to yesterday. I added the story and I'm just like, I need to watch it.
Yeah,
and I got stuck
it's cool.
Got stuck in a game dev meeting last night, unfortunately. Ted Lasso is Richmond getting added to FIFA. I have never been like, I'm still not going to get a day one, but I think that's a great idea for FIFA in terms of marketing.
Yeah,
that's great. It made me laugh.
Like, yeah. And then the last thing is, the Iron Man game that the XboxEra podcast announced.
Well, okay, so it's not quite true. So I can probably say for sure, I think Nick already shared it on Twitter. So Nick, my co-host on XboxEra, he knew about the Iron Man game, but he was asked, I should say, not to share that it was Iron Man. And he didn't, right? But what he did do, which is, I guess I'm giving the game away a little bit here, but he did what Nick does, which is, wouldn't it be cool if it was Iron Man, though? Like, because he was just, and I'm just like, well, everyone's going to think it's Iron Man now, right? And yeah, it was. Very early in dev, right? Yeah. But very cool, and I know people give Nick a lot of crap, and it's weird how much crap he caps compared to me, who's standing there alongside him throughout the show. And I have a relatively quiet life on Twitter, very little Twitter beef being thrown my way, and I'm fine with that. I
mean, we can change that.
No, please don't. I like a quiet life. My life is busy enough, but he hears a lot of different things, and he'll try and vet what he can, and he's got people he trusts. I think what people need to realize is that some of the stuff that he hears is a long way out. And I can't think of it because I think there's been like Fortnite characters who've been told about a year away, and then they finally announced. It's like, yeah, I shared that back in 2021. Knew it was coming, but with all of these things, there's obviously a pipeline, and I don't know, who his sources are, and it's not my right to ask. Right? He's very protective because he doesn't want to get anyone into trouble. So he often describes himself as just a ventriloquist dummy. He'll just say what he's told to say or what he can share, and then offer his take on what he's been told he can say, rather than, declare X, Y, and Z. And sometimes he misses, but I think he hits a lot more than people perhaps give him credit for. And rumor mills are always interesting, right? Because that's the point. And I've loved how many sites report on them, even though we have a hilarious intro song and a massive disclaimer that says XboxEra is not responsible for other websites declaring these rumors as fact. Because it is a rumor mill. It's we're hearing on the grapevine. It is not we're leaking definite information or, and some of that kind of stuff has come our way. But, we're also conscious that game developers are human beings and might not want, there's some stuff coming that I know we've known about for ages, but it's not our place. Let the developers have their moment. When it comes to actually showing it off or all of that jazz. So it's a fine line to walk, but I know Nick has a wonderful time doing it, so I'll let him deal with it.
The one thing I was going to ask with the rumor mill too is, have you ever been copyrighted for using obviously we have our song of the week and we do a different take each week. What song was it recently that it was Journey? Yeah,
Journey. Yeah. So my rendition of Journey was so good that I got flagged by YouTube's copyright.
Wow.
Considering I didn't have any backing music and the lyrics were completely different, I still got a copyright. Well, they reviewed it. It was fine. They took it off. But that's my claim to fame for sure.
So the question with that is, have you ever been picked up for using your version of Song of the Week for friends?
Well, it's interesting actually. So we did get originally we used to use I heard a rumor, like I think it was Donna Summer or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we might have done a bit of Adele, like rumor has it. But yeah, we obviously got struck, and I tried all the tricks of like slowing it down by like 20 beats a second, so you still get the gist of the song, and maybe trick the algorithm. But they always catch you in the end. So we were actually lucky in that the community came through for us and was like, "Hey, I've written a song that kind of riffs off of the Friends, but I'm going to sing it, and it shouldn't." And it hasn't since we've been lucky, and it's so cringingly bad that I love every time we get to hit that button. Like, it's great. I'm all for it. Give me more cringe. Please.
It's like that's what we base this podcast around. So
Yeah,
100%.
basically, that's very much the basis of it. All right, well, we are running a little short on time, so let's just crack straight into Game Pass stuff there. Cameron, you want to?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a ton for Game Pass updates. I'm just going to quickly go through the list. Deathloop, Hard Space Shipbreaker out on console and cloud, Beacon Pines, Slime Rancher 2, Spider Heck. Is it Proteus? How do you pronounce it?
Proteus.
Proteus.
Okay, cool.
Really good. Give that a go.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Grounded 1.0 coming out on the 27th. Moon Cars. We've got a running joke for the last few weeks. It's Moon Cars.
Yeah,
it's got to be Moon Cars.
It took me a moment. I was like, wait. No, I can't.
It's Lunar Lander Simulator, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Let's Build a Zoom. Let's Build a Zoo, September 29th.
Let's build a Zoom call.
Yep.
100%. Valheim coming out on PC on September 29th. And my favorite for the month, Paw Patrol Grand Prix, September 30th.
Yep, we're all waited with bated breath on that one.
Games leaving. We've got a few. AI The Somnium Files, Astria Ascending, Dandy Ace, Going Under, Lemnis Gate, Slime Rancher, Subnautica Below Zero, The Procession to Cavalry, Unsighted, Visage, and Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally, unfortunately having their server closures on October 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a bummer. But
yeah, so if you're looking to get some of those done, you better be bloody quick about it because there are a lot of them. I highly recommend AI Somnium Files if you're a story gamer like I am.
and if you have time.
You'll be okay. You can. It is mostly a visual novel, so it's not too bad.
Procession to Cavalry. Like,
also, yes, Procession to Cavalry
1 to 2 hours, easy. Very comedic.
If you have any love for Monty Python, that's a must play. Yeah. All right, I'll just quickly flick through what I've been playing. So I did the DLC for Boyfriend Dungeon. It was fine. I like the new characters. I finally finished up Dreamscaper. Thanks, Cameron, for putting me through that.
It's a good game.
It's fine.
I enjoyed it. Anyway,
look, your pitch to me was, it's just like Hades. Okay, technically, yes, it is very much like Hades. They were very much like, hey, let's just take this concept, and then they were like, okay, but also no art, no good music, no good story.
Okay. I'm going to take it back a second, yeah? It's not my fault that I recommend a good roguelite, and then Game Pass decides, all right, we're just going to make sure that the games leaving are roguelites.
Yes. So the other one that I've been playing is Going Under, which is the roguelite where you essentially work for a startup that's been acquired by Amazon. It's and you basically run through 3 dungeons over and over again. I mean, it's a roguelite. You gotta understand what it is. 3D, plane, breakable weapons, a lot of durability stuff. It's a decent game. I like the story. I like the concept's very funny. Like, obviously, very tongue in cheek around sort of corporate and bullshit. And I like that a lot. What I don't like is the imposter mode that they added with the DLC, where you need to run through a gauntlet of 10 floors with new status effects that they put on you every single time.
Oof.
And so I'm at the final one now on 7, and I've been bashing my head against it because it's like, okay, every time I pick up a skill, I take damage. It's like there's so many other things. Like enemies on the final room of every enemy does double damage. Bosses there's just like, again, they just keep adding and adding and adding. There's no health upgrades, there's no skills for the last run, no mentors, and then life isn't fair is the last thing it says. So I really enjoyed the game. I mean, again, we were talking about accessibility. This is a hard game that has really good accessibility for the most part. Like they give you like an extra 5 hearts. They increase your roll invincibility frames. Like, there's a lot of different stuff they do in there to really help you out by playing through it. And like playing through the base game like that, I had a really good time. I really enjoyed the story. It's relatively light. It's like a sort of 10-hour experience. And then this DLC just was like, oh god, okay. They actually were like, oh no, this game's too easy. We need to really crank it up. I'm not going to say too much more about it. I'm going to try and do that. I need to get it done before it leaves Game Pass, because if I leave something, my sickness means that I can't leave something non-completed. So yeah, and that's literally all I've been playing this week. I've got a bunch of stuff, but I'm like, I have to finish these Game Pass games before I move on to new Game Pass games, because I want to play Immortality, I want to play Danganronpa V3, I want to play Deathloop. There's so much I want to fucking play, and now I've got Proteus on there, and I want to try out. There was a Hellslinger.
Yeah, Proteus has co-op, so as I understand,
okay.
it has co-op with the campaign. I find any game, even if it's a less than stellar game, is immediately raised up by being co-op, because you can always have fun with friends, even with jank. So, but Proteus is the opposite of jank. It's extremely well done, so you should have a good time.
And yeah, that's me. Cameron, what do you got?
All right, I'll quickly go through mine. Project Cars. So they've got, I think, like 10 community events left. There's an achievement in the game for getting 20 community events. I was teed up to get the achievement 1 week before the last event. Surprisingly, it just locked out, it unlocked out of the blue for me this week.
Great.
Which, I mean, cool. I'm going to take it. That's fine. But yeah, the Project Cars and Project Cars 2 delisting is coming up pretty shortly.
I think it's like mid-October.
I think, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, nearly got all the online...
The dreaded licensing hits.
Yeah.
Car games.
All the car games, yeah, they just can't do it.
Games that I've been playing, DC League of Super Pets. I played with Stephanie last weekend. Really enjoyed it. Pretty easy, just like on rails, flying, shoot some things kind of stuff. Went back and did Ugly Dolls, which she loves. She's got like this little plush toy called George with demented teeth. So she just calls it George game over and over, and it's absolutely adorable. But yeah, played it for like an hour or two, and then we realized it's actually co-op. So Dad comes in, helps out, get all the collectibles. Played for a few hours of that. Really enjoyable. Nobody Saves the World. Got a DLC update. Now, Nobody Saves the World is probably still my top indie of the game. Indie game of the year. Just absolutely amazing. The co-op, that sense of discovery that I was talking about earlier in the episode. Like, it just does it so incredibly well. The DLC is okay.
Yeah, very similar thoughts from our review guy. He was like, oh.
It's such a shame, because like the main game has such a well-driven story that has such a sense of discovery, and it's one of those games that this year I'm just like, you need to play it co-op. Like you're going to have such an elevated experience, because there'll be some person with you that's just like, oh, I tested the ghost form with this skill and it worked really well, and you're just batting ideas off each other as you're playing.
Yeah.
This DLC is essentially 12 challenge rooms, 2 extra forms that don't, like, you're using your maxed out abilities in the challenge rooms, and then to get the rest of the achievements, you're essentially wondrously aiming around the game just to get the extra XP. If they'd done like another story beat, like just something a little bit after, which, I mean, this is like you're in a tournament kind of thing, which just kind of feels like a cop-out. Like, still plays incredibly well. It's just, I wanted just more of that story element.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. Call of the Lamb, they fixed the achievements. Finally got a patch on Xbox. Unfortunately, my unlockable achievement popped, and I still have one more in the game to go.
Oh, okay, that's a little unusual.
So
close enough.
Yeah, so there's a bug at the moment where the spider that you buy followers from, I don't know what causes the bug, but like if you buy, like people are theorizing that if you buy a certain number, he just never gives you the tarot card.
Oh.
So started a completely new playthrough to try and get it, and I'm pretty sure the exact same thing's happened again.
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised that, Spider is infinitely familiar with bugs.
Yeah. Still one of the best games I've played this year, but it's just like there was the initial glitchy achievements. There was the snails not spawning, and now it's like more of the same. So I don't know whether I had to put this down for a little while and just try again, or
give it some time, right? I think you've got most of the experience out of it at least.
Incredibly good game. It's one of those games that I really hope the Massive Monster comes out with more DLC. And the fact that I'm going to one of their parties next week, not next week, the week after, for PAX, just even more exciting because of how much I love the game.
Good choice.
Yep. And then the last two is I've dabbled in Deathloop a little bit, enjoying my time with it already, minus the confusion around accessibility. But yeah, stellar game. Really excited that, both Deathloop and Grounded are coming out this month. And I'm wondering if Deathloop steals a bit of Grounded's hype.
I don't know if there's a lot of crossover in those audiences, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't know. But, just in terms of, a AAA release.
Well, Grounded has already been out for, technically out for quite a while, though.
Yeah. I don't know.
Grounded, I'm hoping to do the review for, but I do know that, the 1.0, I think, I can't say too much. The 1.0 release, I'll probably wait until it's out publicly, and then we'll work through it. I'm lucky that I've got two good friends that have been playing it religiously, so I'm actually going to jump in, and we're going to go through the story together, and they're going to kind of take me along for the ride, and we'll do some early game stuff and do the story, and then I'm going to jump into their late game thing and in their current world and kind of take on the Broodmother and all of the big bosses and everything else at the end. I do know what they've built. I've looked at a lot of Grounded videos on YouTube. I'm really looking forward to put the video together because these guys have gone crazy in terms of what you can build. I won't spoil it, but I imagine we'll try and get that video out within a week of the 1.0 release. But definitely keep an eye out for it because I was like, what have you guys done? As I'm like the frame rate on a Series X is I'm like, what have you done?
Amazing.
So yeah. What was the last? And Dark Souls. I've just decided, all right, we've got a few bosses in. I'm a little bit more experienced with it. Restarted.
I have been,
clean slate. Immediately so much. It's weird, yeah. I didn't expect putting a few hours in would help me so much in terms of experience coming back to it.
It is a game that was, when it came out, was quite unique in terms of how you play it, and does take a bit of changing. You need to sort of change the way you play it and play games in general to kind of max it. I mean, now there's 20 clones of it out there, so it's a little bit different, but yeah.
But still going to continue going on through the challenge of completing all the Dark Souls game. It's just going to take some time.
I haven't been playing anything for any particular achievements or anything like that. But I've been playing through Midnight Fight Express, which I'm dabbling in. I'm ashamed to say this. I got given review code for Ghost Runner Ultimate Edition or the Complete Edition, whatever it is. I feel really bad. I'm sorry to the developers and the publisher. I cannot review this game because I suck at it. It is. I don't know if you played it, but it is.
Cameron loves
it.
Hey,
Matt, isn't that the game that I bought you a year ago that you've yet to touch?
Look, to be fair, if it was games that I'm yet to touch,
hard.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, see, that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm just that's not my idea of fun, to be fair.
I mean, Valeg's done it, yeah?
Well, yeah,
it's hard. It's hard. I've tried slowing it down. I just can't. I'm going to try and persist because I hate letting anyone down, right? And it was if you get a chance. But otherwise, I still want to try and dig out some more clips from Immortality, which I thought was fantastic. Been playing a bit of Tinykin with my boy. He really loves that game. Lego Brawls was quite good. It's a bit empty and dead. It feels like a last gen game, but it's great for kids because it's just button mash central. I dabbled in Commandos 3 to relive some nostalgia and then realized I've moved on with my life, so that's probably not going to get a look in again. You Suck at Parking is definitely going to be key. It's a quick pop in and back at this level. Deathloop I've started yesterday. It hasn't hooked me yet because I just don't like how it controls quite yet, so I've got some tweaking to do. But yeah, mostly there's a lot of forging going on. Deadlines are looming, and I want stuff ready for people to play and download and things like that. So there'll be that, and quite a bit of Halo Infinite ranked, because that's my jam. It's the jam in my jelly roll. But yeah, that's my list.
Fantastic. All right. I'll just quickly go through our leaderboard. So in third place, we have Thrash Forever with 6,905. We have Ozbuff Fanatic with 7,235. And we have Panda at 14,550 for this week, because people have too much time on their hands.
And he's getting achievements in Somnia files too.
Oh, good. Well, okay, at least he's playing something worth playing. And as always, if you want to be part of our leaderboard, hit us up. We'll add you on TA. Happy to do that. And then with our completion shoutouts, we've got Crucible, who finished up Dragon Age Origins. Cameron finished up Super Pets and Nobody Saved the World DLC. Valak finished up Fantastic Four and Procession of Cavalry and Going Under, and has been rubbing my face in it. Baron von Neumann finished up the Nobody Saves the World DLC. Rapture finished up Wonderlands DLC and Forza Horizon 5. And Red also finished up Wonderlands. Admiral finished up Gears of War 3, which is fucking insane because he's been working on it for 9 months straight. So congratulations for that. He got Seriously 3.0, which I don't think I know anyone who has that achievement. Firehawk finished up Nobody Saves the World and Boyfriend Dungeon DLC. Frost finished up Gears of War 2, and Kirby finished up Onrush.
Wow.
All right.
Insane to see a few Gears of Wars in there.
Yeah. some big grinds.
Grind. Sorry, I was being
Seriously?
And as always, we talked about the word challenge. If you don't know what the word challenge is, basically I come up with a game, I put a GIF into our bot, and you basically have to guess the title of the game in our Discord. And if you get it right, the GIF shows up and you win 20 bucks Australian. And now basically, as soon as I put out the clue for last week, there was a game that had a single DLC with achievements. It was developed and published by the same person, and it was only released physically. We got it within 3 guesses. So Keo correctly guessed that it was Stranglehold, the 360 John Woo classic.
Great game.
I love that game. Also way too fucking hard, but I love it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Keo, I'm assuming he's already been paid, Cameron, or if not, I'm sure he'll hit you up.
We've talked about it. I'd need to just transfer it.
Thanks for playing, guys. We'll have a new one for you potentially next week. Next couple of weeks are going to get a bit weird with my work travel and
so
coming up.
Next 2 weeks we're going to be doing shows on Wednesday because of the PAX schedule. Like, there's just no way around it.
Unfortunately, yeah, just because of our traveling and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to do some moving around. So I don't know if we'll have a word challenge until after PAX, but stay tuned. Cool. Patreon, Cameron, do you want to?
Yeah, so come support us on Patreon, chilling, all that stuff. We do another podcast over there called LCA, which is Lights, Camera, and Action, which is basically us reviewing video game movies. It's not our fault they're all bad, but you know.
Yeah, so we just finished up so if you don't know, if you're not a Patreon, which again the majority of you probably fucking aren't, give us some money. No, but basically, we record the first part where we talk about the thing it's based on, and we talk about our history with it. We go away and watch it, and then we come back and review it afterwards. So we just finished up reviewing.
Cool concept.
It's good. It was good fun. So we just finished up reviewing Doom, the late 2008 classic, I believe, with The Rock. It is, so I'm editing that over this weekend, so we'll hopefully have that out next week for our patrons. All of our content for Patreon is available at all tiers. Again, it is literally just to support the show, so we can, pay for Zoom and for hosting and for, equipment and things like that. We don't make any money off it. It's for contests as well. Speaking of contests, Cameron, how's that looking?
Yeah, I've got to get September one organized, but yeah, that's cool. In terms of Patreon, we have Macau, Chapters, Natalator, Firehawk, Mad Lefty, G Spaceman, Admiral Awesome, Odrin, Keo, Happy Moogles, Kung Fu Skills, Hack and Pone, Cavalier 07, Old Maid Clown, Mark B, and Mick Love and Legend.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Without your support, we literally would not be able to do the show. And we do have a few other shows that we're still kicking around on Patreon, so if you haven't heard them, go check them out, give us some feedback, and we'll see which ones we continue, which ones we kick to the curb. And that's kind of going to bring us towards the end of the show. As I said at the beginning, you can come hang out with us on Twitch. Hall of Gamers Pod is the place to find us. Otherwise, we have our Discord, discord.io/Hall of Gamers. Come and hang out with our community, chat in there. That's where the word challenge is. That's where we post basically all of our thoughts about things and news and memes.
And if you need any help with achievements.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we have our boosting channel in there for sort of getting people together and also showing up what games you completed, and so we can all celebrate together. If you want to contact us in other ways, hallofgamerspodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, at hallofgamerspod on Twitter. Otherwise, if you want to help out the podcast in other ways, subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave a review. If you've listened this far in a podcast, you understand how they fucking work. So I don't really feel like I need to do too much of a spiel, but word of mouth is always huge for us. Again, we are a small podcast, so we greatly appreciate any new listeners who want to jump on and hang out with us. And I guess that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Cameron, if people want to find you, what's the deal?
Shadowless Edge and pretty much everything. Twitter.
Where are you, Cameron?
I'm here.
Where are you?
you know, okay, it's...
No.
One line. My relationship has gone to the point now when like, obviously we're both remote workers, we both work from home.
Mm-hmm.
We're just doing where are you to the other side of the house to locate it.
You guys really are made for each other. It's fucking disgusting. So Shadowless Edge and everything, fantastic. Yeah. John, here's your point, mate. Shill, everything. Just go out with it. Be shameless.
I'll do my best. You can find me, as in actually me, at _Sikamikanico. Good luck spelling that _. But mostly you can interact with me via at XboxEra on Twitter. Obviously, XboxEra.com. You'll find links to all of our wonderful stuff from our Game Pass app to our website with all the latest news and reviews, our YouTube channel, and our wonderful community forums, which are entirely free to use. You don't need a professional email address to sign up and join in. And we can boast that Phil Spencer's a member in our forums, and sometimes he occasionally posts. You never know. He's always reading. So yeah, it's cool stuff. Really, really appreciate you guys having me on and getting up early and making it through a very, brutal start to the day, getting straight in and chatting video games. But it's always fun to not host and just be a guest and be able to just relax a little bit. So really, really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the achievement hunting community of the Hall of Gamers with me. It's been a blast. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. You can find me on Neomaster and everything, but again, it doesn't matter because I'm not a social human being. But thank you so much, John, for joining us. It was absolutely fantastic having you on, and I'm sure our community will greatly appreciate it.
A pleasure.
And thank you, Cameron, as always, for producing and making sure that things run to schedule. And thank you again, as always, to our community and to Charlotte in the chat, who couldn't join us on the podcast this week, but has been moderating for us. And to everyone else who's listening, we will catch you guys next week. See you later.